Justice League Unlimited is back. Well, sort of. Hey, Internet, I'm Chris, and this is the place on the Internet where I talk about comics, movies, games, and things I'm generally passionate about. So the moment is finally here. The Justice League is back. Mark Waid and Dan Mora are working on Justice League Unlimited. Issue number 1 just came out. I got to read it on Comixology, and I have to say, yes. Yes, yes, yes. It is a great book, and it's something that comes out of Absolute Power, which was also by Mark Waid and Dan Mora, with a new status quo in the DC universe, with All In, the Absolute Universe. I think it really speaks to a new era in DC. For the past 2 years, there hasn't been a Justice League book. The Justice League died, and then we went into Dark Crisis, and then the Titans became the premier team in the DC universe. And I think to most people that was a little weird, and I don't think the status quo really held, because honestly Titans was not a great book. I read the first issue and I just could never really get attached to it. Beast World happened, I didn't know what was going on. So it just felt like there was this big void in the DC universe, and we all knew the Justice League was coming back. Even when they had died, it kind of was like, okay, like when are they coming back? Which is with everything in comics. And now we're finally at a moment where it's back. So with Justice League Unlimited, again, we have this new status quo where at the end of Absolute Power, the Justice League is back. The heroes got their powers back, but things are mixed up. Some characters have the same powers, characters have new powers, and that has set up this new dynamic where new members are joining, and it really is Justice League Unlimited, because basically if you're a metahuman, you can get a Justice League card, go up to the Watchtower, meet the team, the whole thing. And what's great about having a Justice League book is that I think events are tired, both in Marvel and DC. But just with Dan Mora's art and Mark Waid's writing, you already see from the first issue that we have something being set up with the stakes that match a Justice League. And some of these events that happen in the DC universe and the Marvel universe that are marketed and stuff like that, where we have these relaunches, some of them you're like, hey, this could have been a 4 or 5 issue arc in Avengers or Justice League. And I'm excited that DC has that book now. So in this first issue, you have the setup. And what is cool about the issue too is that throughout the issue, Airwave is a new character that's introduced. He's coming to the Justice League for the first time. He could go through electronics and stuff like that. I believe he was in Absolute Power. Not a character I'm too familiar with, but he's joining the Justice League. He's going up to the Watchtower. You see things like the Challengers of the Unknown. You see the Question, Renee Montoya. You see the Atom, and all of those characters are having books spinning out of Absolute Power and All In coming out over the next couple months. The Question All Along has already come out, so there's clear that, hey, the seeds are being planted for the stories that will spin out of these books, which is cool because you see that and you get excited, and it's better than a tie-in, I would say, because sometimes with events there's all these tie-ins and you're like, I don't really want to invest in it. Whereas you have this book, you're like, oh, like I wonder what's happening in that corner of the Watchtower. I wonder what's going on with the JSA. I wonder what's going on with the Challengers of the Unknown. So it really kind of scratches that curiosity, whereas I feel like with events it's almost like, hey, they have a gun to your head and they're like, buy this book now if you want to know what's going to happen. Whereas this, it's like, hey, like you can explore the areas of the Watchtower you want. Now back to the issue. So yeah, you have different teams. In this issue, you have an alpha team, a strike team that consists of Superman, Wonder Woman, Black Lightning, and a couple more characters as they go to South Africa to again go up against this war wheel. And you have some really cool moments, these epic moments, and it feels like Justice League Unlimited, the animated series, which was really popular, and I think a lot of people my age that are reading comics right now got into DC Comics through that series and the DC animated universe. And they really lean into that, especially with the opening credits page being an homage to the opening of the series. You have this epic battle, but then you have sort of a mystery brewing between Batman and Blue Beetle as they respond to a call in Costa Rica, much more low key. It reminded me of Batman Brave and the Bold, where you had a lot of Batman and Blue Beetle team ups, which, hey, DC, if you're willing to make a Batman and Blue Beetle series, please, just we all need just 6 issues, Batman Brave and the Bold style. Let's just do it. And yeah, like I said, Mark Wade, he knows superheroes. There's not a Mark Wade book, and I think it's great that he's come back to DC. When he came back, he jumped on World's Finest, which is probably the most consistently good DC book out there. And I think it reminds people of what comics should be. They should be fun, they should be bombastic. And Justice League Unlimited hits all of those notes, especially with Dan Mora's art. It's like whatever DC is paying him, it is not enough. And this book obviously changes what the status quo is in terms of, hey, like, yes, the Titans are here, but they're in the Watchtower now. So the Justice League, they are the premier team. And I it kind of reminds me of the Doom Patrol book that spun out of Lazarus Planet, or I forget the name of that event, but it was the Lazarus event. And you had the Doom Patrol. Sort of, there were new metas that were getting new powers, but obviously because it was the Doom Patrol, everyone had weird powers. So it's a lot like that. You're dealing with them seeking out new members, but also dealing with the challenges of being the Justice League and what that means in a modern society and what they've learned from the events of Absolute Power. So I wonder what the book is going to look like, because the first issue was fantastic, but I know Mark Waid has said that, being with certain events that have happened lately, it's hard for him to believe in superheroes, but I believe in this book, and I think it's a fantastic jumping on point, and it's something the DC universe has needed for quite some time, and it's a sign that DC is on the right path when it comes to All In and all the things they're doing. I think this is a book that can be at the top of the sales charts just because of the art and the creative team behind it, and the potential for telling some great Justice League stories. I don't remember the last great Justice League story. The probably the last great one was Darkseid War, which at this point was 6-7 years ago, which is insane. So I think this is the perfect template to deliver that, and hopefully we get that in the next few years from Mark Waid and Dan Mora. But yeah, what did you think? I loved the first issue. I've been waiting for this for quite some time. I love Dan Mora. I met him at New York Comic Con, so he is my GOAT, and I'm excited to see what Justice League Unlimited brings to the DCU. And let me know what you think. Did you like Justice League Unlimited issue 1? Did you feel like, hey, I'm kind of over sort of the events of Absolute Power, or are you all in on DC? Let me know. Like, comment, subscribe, and peace.